Hey everybody, it's Alicia Berry here. I'm an artist, an author, and educator, and the primary gist of my work is that it's my devotion to bring light into the world, and I do that through several means, um, through my individual work with people, through my art, my writing, through teleclasses and play shops and retreats, all of which can be found at my website, www.aliciaberry.com. And I'm relaunching my website on Friday. So I hope y'all will have a look on Friday and look at the new design. Hopefully it's easier to navigate and makes a little more sense. I can be a little wordy sometimes, so I had somebody help me who can cut things down just a little bit. And I hope you like it. But do check it out and tell me what you think. So I was guided to make a video today about the nature of mistakes. And that really sat me down because I think about this a lot. I think about mistakes and I think about failure and I think, you know, what does that mean really? And when is it a mistake really? And then if you decide that it's a mistake or it comes to your attention that it's a mistake, then what do you do? So I do think about this a lot, certainly as a human being living on this planet where it seems like so many people um, do things that are seemingly unconscious or seemingly hurtful or are not very life affirming. And so I think about this a lot. And so it's probably for me, like everything else that I'm guided to do, it's probably for me, so I can learn something. But in the process, I get to offer something to you, and hopefully it's of use to you too. So what I did to start out with was I wanted to find out what the definition of mistake is. And I'm going to read this to you. And this is from the Webster's Dictionary. It's an error in action, calculation, judgment, caused by poor reasoning, carelessness, or insufficient knowledge, etc. And I looked at that definition. It's like, okay, that helps me out a little bit. I get the error in action. I get an error in judgment. I get that it can be caused by poor reasoning, or like when you get a wrong answer in your math class, or carelessness, like when you get in a car accident. Even then, I'm not sure that's a mistake. But in any case, in insufficient knowledge, that's the part that kind of had me stop for a moment, because insufficient knowledge would seem to me that you don't know any better. And then that led me down another path. We're told by spiritual teachers frequently, spiritual mentors, and I think it kind of has trickled down into sort of the pop spirituality that we hear in the mainstream, that there is no such thing as a mistake. And I think at a certain level of universal awareness that may be true, maybe, because at a certain universal level of awareness, everything is just experience and everything's just happening, and there is no judgment, and there is no sense of right or wrong or good or bad. But that level of awareness is very far beyond kind of our daily earthly physical awareness. And so for me, my whole life, it's been about bringing together what I know about the spiritual or universal picture into my daily life here on earth as a human being, because it's not okay with me that spiritual is up there somewhere and down here we got to do some different set of rules, play by a different set of rules. And so I've thought about this a lot and wondered if that's really true, that there is no such thing as mistake. And I've decided that there are such things as mistakes. And speaking from an earthly, grounded, physical, grounded in this reality perspective, I think that there are mistakes when things happen that we do things that are not life affirming, or say things that are not life affirming, or we cause hurt, although sometimes causing hurt isn't a mistake, because that gets attention for someone who needs to wake up. But um, that there are ways that we can make mistakes, and I think one of the biggest ways that I think that we make a mistake is when we do something and we know better. We know that it's not the right thing to do. And we can tell that because we feel that it's not the right thing to do, or not the right thing to say. We can tell because something in our body constricts, or our heart closes, or we have this feeling of pointed pain as we're lashing out. To me, when we know better, that's a pretty big clue that we've done something, that was a mistake. I'm trying to think of an example, or was thinking of an example about this, and I was thinking about when we have said something, to someone that wasn't particularly nice, or have done something that was in error, as the definition might say, that we can have a sense of it being a mistake by how we feel afterwards. I think we can catch it sometimes during it and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so uncomfortable with what I just said. I really apologize. How can I make this right? But to me, it's after, if you feel closed and kind of tight, and like there's a weight on your back. It's sort of like a boulder at the back of your neck. That's probably a good indication that you did something that wasn't particularly life affirming, and you probably knew better. So that's something to play with as I'm continuing to learn the definition of mistake. However, this idea that we don't make any, I really, again, have been thinking about it a lot, and I've read something that was really beautiful in Araya's book, The Invitation, where she talks about how if we live with this idea that there are no mistakes and that we can never make a mistake, and that, if we did something that wasn't particularly nice, but it wasn't a mistake, that's a way of not taking responsibility for ourselves, and not taking responsibility for how we affect other people, or how we show up in the world as life affirming or not life affirming. And I agree with that. Actually, I've been thinking, about things in my life that I've done when I did know better, and chose to through spite, or through feeling justified, but from a wounded place, or being afraid, mostly afraid. I'm thinking once about when I yelled at my 2-year-old son because he got into something that he, wasn't supposed to get into. And of course, he didn't make a mistake. He didn't know any better, right? He was 2. But I yelled at him. Stop that! You're not supposed to do that! In a loud voice. And of course, he broke down and cried. And that made shame for him, because he's like, oh my God, my mother's yelling at me. I must have done something terrible. And I realized in the moment that I did it that it wasn't the right thing to do. But I couldn't stop. I could have stopped, but I didn't, because I needed the relief. But that was a mistake, because I knew better. I knew that yelling at your kid is not how to get, a loving relationship started with your child, or how to get things done and educate him in a proper way, and help him be close and bond to me. So fortunately, I've had lots of years of working on our relationship since that yelling, and I haven't yelled at him since then. However, if I ever raise my voice, even if I don't raise my voice, if I ever say, I really would prefer you didn't do that, just in that voice, just like that. But if it's setting a limit, he's like, you're yelling at me. And so there's my mistake right there in my face. It's showing me I had an indelible mark on this kid. So what I've had to do, and what I've wanted to do, was to admit to him that I made a mistake. And that means that I'm taking responsibility for that mistake. I'm saying, from my heart, I see I'm really messed up. I blew it when I yelled at you that way, and I'm so sorry. I really apologize. And what can I do to make it right? I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it right with you. And in that moment, it's like the mistake. It's not that it's undone, but the harm and the years of weight and hurt and the wound are healed. And that's good for us. That's good for us as human beings to have that kind of interchange and to have that kind of effect on one another, a healing effect on one another instead of a harmful effect on one another. And I realize why, we would like to believe that there are no mistakes. And I think it's because we would rather not admit that we are wrong, that we have such an attachment to being right, and that we learn that when we're little, that we learn shame when we aren't doing what people want us to do, and then we internalize that, shame into self-judgment, and that we can create our whole lives trying not to fail, trying not to screw up, trying not to make an error, trying not to make a mistake, so we can avoid that feeling of self-judgment. But in the end, we are fallible. We are human beings, and we do make mistakes. And perhaps it's not such a bad thing for us to have some relief in knowing that we're fallible. And maybe this will make us softer with ourselves and with each other, which really would be just a wonderful course for us at this time. So my advocacy is just go ahead and be okay with the fact that you make mistakes, that we all make mistakes. You can soften the blow by learning from it and never repeating it, and then you can heal the situation in yourself and with another person by apologizing and making it right. So there's a little tidbit for you guys today. Learn more about me and my work if you'd like. Wanting to bring light into this world, wanting to wake us up, and consciousness is where I'm headed, and that's my prayer for myself. So if you'd like to join me on the journey, feel free to read my blog, check out my offerings on my website, and many blessings to all of you. Adios.